A few days after Maddie's unwelcome visit, Ryan found an official-looking envelope taped to his fence. The letterhead bore the HOA's logo, even though he had never signed up for their nonsense. With an amused smirk, he unfolded the paper and read, "Notice of non-compliance. Dear Mr. Carter, it has come to our attention that your property violates multiple community standards as outlined by the HOA. We respectfully request the following changes be made to bring your property in line with our guidelines. The rooster's morning crow exceeds acceptable noise levels. Your barn's red paint does not match the approved neighborhood color palette. Livestock should be properly contained or housed indoors to maintain a pleasant aesthetic. Your gravel driveway does not meet HOA paving standards." Ryan laughed so hard he nearly dropped the letter. Not only was his farm not under HOA jurisdiction, but the complaints were downright ridiculous. If Maddie thought she could regulate the color of his barn or demand that his rooster sleep in, she was in for a rude awakening. A second notice arrived 2 days later. This time, Maddie herself stood at the edge of his property, watching as Ryan read it. "Mr. Carter, ignoring official HOA correspondence will not make this issue go away," she said, arms folded like a disappointed teacher scolding a student. Ryan squinted at the new list of demands. They escalated. All farm animals must be relocated or housed indoors. The fence must be replaced with an HOA-approved white picket style. All structures, including the barn, must be repainted to blend with the neighborhood aesthetic. Ryan let out a low whistle. "You really don't give up, do you?" Maddie's smile was tight and forced. "It's not about me. It's about the integrity of our community." Ryan crossed his arms. "That's nice, but I don't live in your community." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Technically, you're on the border, which means your property still has an impact on HOA members." Ryan's patience was running thin. Then maybe they shouldn't have bought homes next to a farm. Maddie huffed. "I was hoping we could resolve this without escalation, but if you insist on being difficult, I will take the necessary legal action." Ryan tilted his head. "Legal action? For owning chickens?" Maddie's eyes gleamed with the kind of smugness that only came from wielding power over others. "For devaluing property prices with your unsanctioned setup. I have a petition already in motion to have your land annexed under the HOA's jurisdiction. Once that happens, you will be required to comply." Ryan's easygoing demeanor slipped for the first time. She was actually trying to take control of his land. He let out a low chuckle, shaking his head. "All right, Maddie. Do you want to play games? Let's play." Maddie smirked, mistaking his amusement for surrender. She turned on her heel, confident that she had won. Ryan, however, had no intention of going down without a fight. Ryan knew Maddie wasn't going to back down, but neither was he. If she wanted a war, he was more than happy to give her one. The next morning, he took action. If Maddie thought his barn was an eyesore, he'd make sure it was the most glorious eyesore she'd ever seen. He called up his buddy, an artist with a flair for the ridiculous, and by the end of the day, the barn had been transformed into a massive, brightly colored mural. On one side, a cartoonish rooster loomed over the landscape, wearing a crown. On the other, a giant HOA violation notice was painted in bold, mocking detail, complete with exaggerated legal jargon. That same evening, he installed an even bigger, brighter sign at the property line. "Private property, not HOA territory. Trespassers will be filmed, mocked, and escorted off by chickens." The message was clear, and it was just the beginning. Ryan didn't have to wait long for Maddie's reaction. By the next morning, she was back, this time with a clipboard, 2 HOA board members, and an expression of barely contained rage. "Mr. Carter," she began, voice tight. "This," she gestured dramatically at the massive rooster mural on his barn, "is completely unacceptable." Ryan leaned against his porch railing, sipping his coffee. "You don't like it?" "I think it adds character." Maddie's nostrils flared. "It's childish. It's unprofessional. It's offensive." Ryan feigned concern. "Offensive? To who?" "The chickens." One of the HOA members, a wiry man named Greg, adjusted his glasses. "Look, Mr. Carter, we just need you to comply with reasonable community standards." "Again," Ryan said, grinning, "not part of your community." Maddie exhaled sharply. "We'll see what the county has to say about that." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "County? You really think they care about my barn's paint job?" She smiled in that smug way that set his teeth on edge. "They'll care when I file a formal nuisance complaint." Ryan's grin widened. "Great. Be sure to let them know I'll be filing my own complaints about harassment and trespassing." The HOA members exchanged nervous glances, but Maddie wasn't deterred. "This isn't over." Ryan nodded. "Oh, I know." Maddie had played her hand, and Ryan knew she wasn't bluffing. A few days later, an official notice from the county appeared in his mailbox. The complaint listed several alleged violations, including excessive noise pollution, the rooster crowing at dawn, unpermitted structures, his 30-year-old barn, somehow now in new construction, environmental concerns, his compost pile was unsightly and unsanitary. Ryan laughed. She really went all in, Huh? The next day, a county inspector showed up. Ryan greeted the man, a no-nonsense guy named Carl who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Sorry about this, Carl said, shaking his head. Got a bunch of complaints from some HOA lady about your property. Maddie Davenport? Ryan asked, already knowing the answer. Carl sighed. Yep. She's filed half a dozen complaints in the past week. Ryan smirked. Let me guess. She used a lot of words like unsightly and devaluing property values? Carl chuckled. Bingo. Ryan led him around the farm, showing him permits for everything. The barn, the fencing, even the rooster coop. The compost pile? Perfectly legal and environmentally approved. After making some notes, Carl closed his clipboard. Everything checks out. You're fine. Ryan grinned. Mind putting that in writing? Carl chuckled. Oh, I already planned to. And just so you know, county officials aren't exactly fans of HOAs trying to bully people. I'll be making a note of the excessive complaints. Ryan's grin widened. Much appreciated. Carl tipped his hat and left, and Ryan wasted no time sending a copy of the cleared inspection report straight to Maddie's HOA, along with a note. Nice try. Better luck next time. Maddie's response was swift. By the next morning, a petition was circulating Maplewood's HOA, demanding Ryan either comply with community standards or be forcibly annexed into the HOA's jurisdiction. Maddie was gathering signatures, claiming it was the only way to maintain Maplewood's charm. Ryan sighed, shaking his head. She really doesn't know when to quit. Ryan wasn't about to let Maddie win without a fight. If she wanted a petition war, she was going to get one. He printed his own petition titled, Stop the HOA Land Grab, Protect Private Property Rights. And unlike Maddie's thinly veiled attempt at control, he got real support. His neighbors, many of whom were already sick of Maddie's iron rule, lined up to sign it. Tom, the retired veteran who Maddie once fined for having a non-regulation mailbox. Sarah, the single mom who got a citation because her toddler's plastic playhouse was too colorful. Joe, the old-timer who had lived in Maplewood before the HOA even existed, still grumbled about them, ruining the damn neighborhood. Within 3 days, Ryan's petition had twice as many signatures as Maddie's. And just to drive the point home, he put up a billboard at the entrance of Maplewood that read, Farms belong to farmers, not HOAs. Maddie was furious. At the next HOA meeting, she stood before the board, flustered and raging. We can't let this farmer make a mockery of us. But even the board was growing tired of her antics. The treasurer, an older woman named Joanne, sighed. Maddie, we've got bigger things to worry about than a barn. We're not spending HOA funds on this. Maddie's face turned red. But no, the board voted against her petition. Ryan won. And just to twist the knife, he sent her a thank you card that simply read, Better luck next time, Maddie. Maddie wasn't done scheming, but Ryan was done playing nice. Using the county's record of false complaints, Ryan and a group of like-minded neighbors filed a formal complaint against Maddie and the HOA for harassment. A few weeks later, an official investigation was launched. When it was discovered that Maddie had used HOA funds to pay legal fees for her vendetta, the board had no choice. She was removed as HOA president. The final blow came when she was fined by the county for abusing municipal resources with false complaints. Defeated and humiliated, Maddie sold her house and left Maplewood for good. Ryan watched from his porch as the moving truck pulled away. He tipped his hat and sipped his coffee. Guess she finally took my advice and closed her blinds. With Maddie gone, the HOA softened its grip on Maplewood. No more pointless fines. No more absurd rules. And Ryan? He kept his bright red barn just the way it was. Sometimes, when he walked past it, he'd chuckle at the giant rooster mural, the one that started it all. The farm was his. And now, so was his peace.